That's it. So welcome to tonight's episode of the show. We're all moving forwards. We've been taking on some feedback from last week's show, and people said that I was bobbing backwards and forwards a little bit. So I've actually done away with my nice cozy office chair, and I've got a stool. And you'll be pleased to know, when I first got the stool and I sat on it, I was kind of down here, a bit like Humpty Dumpty. So I went and got some lumps of sleeper and I put them underneath the stool, and now I'm about the right height and I'm about the right place. And if I'm moving backwards and forwards and my head's doing its thing, it's because I've got a wobbly head. So what have we got for you for tonight? Well, we've got an amazing little bit of program about, the finale is going to be part one from Loch Glass, from the holiday we had, the footage we shot when on holiday in August. Loch Glass is one of my most favourite places. It's the most fantastically beautiful natural place in the world, I believe. We've got some amazing footage of some buzzards and a little bit of look for the learning. And obviously, looking for the learning is one of the most important things we can do in our life. So we've got that in there. We're going to show you that. But we're actually going to start off in just a moment with a Dusk. Oh, and I forget, we've also got those amazing books that we've studied. There's one called Ask and It Is Given. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But we're going to start off with a nice little bit of video about Dusk, which is fairly kind of calming. So let's crack on with that video as soon as we possibly can. And let's go press that button, make it bigger, and press. Let you go. Simon here. It's dusk on the 5th of November, fireworks night. I've had a very long day. I was up at 4:30, on the road by 5:30, and been busy. And I got back and I was exhausted, and all I wanted to do was climb in the bath. But we've got dogs. And one of the wonderful things about having dogs is that they have to go out for a walk. So the dogs have got me out, and probably you can tell just by looking, it's beautiful. It's still, it's a little chill. I can hear blackbirds calling and singing a little. Various places around. It's one of those, you need to get out, breathe in the air, because that's vital. Just celebrate the mere fact that we're alive. This is the second most beautiful time of the day. Wow, I hope you enjoyed that. That is, we've got another enter. Here we go. Evening, Judith. Glad to have you with us. So, cracking on. I bet we all do that. We come home and we've had a long day and we're tired, and you quite often just want to put the kettle on, crash, and just say, that's it, I'm home, and just collapse. But there's no doubt about it, when you get out and you taste the air, and I mean, not every night, because sometimes it's tipping down, but the dogs got me out. They made me go for that walk. And when I went, I didn't want to go. But when I got out there, I thought, this is so amazingly beautiful. I've just got to film a little bit of this. That's kind of in me, you know. Simon gets out, got a camera, got a show, got to do a little bit of broadcast, which is what we ultimately did. But it was the fact that it got me out there. The air was fresh and it was still, and there was just a bit of cool to the air, and it was absolutely lovely. So I'm really, really glad, and I hope you enjoyed that video. As I say, don't forget there's a chat button there. If you want to put anything there, that would be absolutely brilliant. But moving swiftly onwards, anyone who's ever come out on one of my walks will have heard me use the phrase, look for the learning. Okay, look for the learning. It's one of the 4 basic shamanic principles. And in fact, it's the third one. It's the third one. Look for everything, because we go through our life and quite often we're a little bit blinkered, and many of us actually kind of shut the world out. You know, we've got earphones on and we're looking at a screen, you know, quite often on our phone, but there's so much going on that we can learn from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play another video. Now this one, oops, that's all right. Technology is getting the better of me, so I need to just do a little bit of an adjustment here. So there we go, that's the one. And now this is a video about buzzards, and I'm going to talk more about buzzards later. Never let you go. Simon here. You'll have heard me say, look for the learning. I've just had a real eye-opener and a reminder. Check this out. So I'm standing in my own back garden. I've just got back from seeing a client, and I can hear buzzards calling. And I'm looking, and I can hear them. And I can hear them. There's actually 6. I don't know if I'm going to get them all in the shot at the same time. But you know what? It kind of goes with the theme of the day. There's 5, look. I wasn't seeing them, and I wasn't seeing them, and I wasn't seeing them. And then I looked higher. And there they all were. High up in the sky. What's the learning? You've got to look as high as you can. You've got to think big, look big, live big. Because if you only ever think small, all you're ever going to get is small. So think big, because then you can look for those little steps that make the big become real. Is that not possibly one of the most amazingly important lessons we can learn in life? Just look to the countryside, look for the learning, and you'll see every single time. Never let you go. Okay, there's something strong. Now, I've just heard that we can't see very much, or you couldn't see very much. I might have an idea as to what that is. Let me just try this quickly and see whether or not I can sort it out, because if you can't see the pictures, it's kind of a bit daft. So just bear with me. Let's have one more go with that video, because I think I might have sussed out what the issue was. So how's that?
Never let you go.
Simon here. You'll have heard me say, look for the learning. I've just had a real eye-opener and a reminder. Check this out. So I'm standing in my own back garden. I've just got back from seeing a client, and I can hear buzzards calling. And I'm looking, and I can hear them. And I can hear them. There's actually 6. I don't know if I'm going to get them all in the shot at the same time. But you know what? It kind of goes with the theme of the day. There's 5, look. I wasn't seeing them, and I wasn't seeing them, and I wasn't seeing them. And then I looked higher. And there they all were, high up in the sky. What's the learning? You've got to look as high as you can. You've got to think big, look big, live big. Because if you only ever think small, all you're ever going to get is small. So think big, because then you can look for those little steps that make the big become real. Is that not possibly one of the most amazingly important lessons we can learn in life? Just look to the countryside, look for the learning, and you'll see every single time.
Never let you go.
So hopefully that was a little bit better. You realise what the problem is. I have to admit, it kind of jumped straight onto the video that quick. I didn't get everything shut down. But after all, what can you do in these situations except say, well, there's a problem happened. I'm going to learn something from this and move on. I mean, I've got quite good at juggling the different media now, and there's bits and pieces happening, and hopefully we'll move on from that and it will all be better. But it was an amazing. I came home and I can hear them. I'm tuned into the sound of buzzards. They are, anyone's read the book, there's a whole chapter dedicated to them. This is the view over the wall. And incidentally, of course, that's the view over the wall. It's in backwards that way around, but that's the view over the wall. There's a whole chapter dedicated to buzzards. And that's because they are, for me, they're amazing. But there's a real important message to buzzards, apart from the fact that they were flying high, you know, and we have to fly high. We have to follow our dreams. We have to chase our dreams, you know. And it was weird. I'm looking around the garden in the usual places, and as I said, I couldn't see them until I looked high. And when I looked high and I looked big, there was everything there, you know. And we're doing that now in my actual life as well. We have got big plans, and we are seriously looking to put things together, and it's really exciting at the moment. Things are starting to drop in. There are quite a few changes coming for here as well, so that's also really, really cool. But buzzards are amazing. They have a real story of regeneration resurgence. If you go back to the 1960s, we were using DDT as a means of controlling insects and pests in our fields and our crops. And they've done lots of tests. And everything is brilliant. It's wonderful. It's all absolutely fine. But what they didn't realize, it wasn't hurting the adults at all. But what it was doing was making the shells on the eggs really, really thin. So that quite often when the female laid the eggs actually broke in being laid. And of course, an egg that's laid and the shells are broken is never, ever going to develop into a chick. So numbers were really, really down. And it was the same for all raptors, if you like, and owls, quite a lot of owls. And if each kind of like generation, each time that a poison is eaten, so supposing, you know, there was DDT on the crops, and the seeds of the crops have been eaten by finches, and then the finches have got caught by birds of prey, there's a 10 times increase in the amount of poison in each trophic layer as you get higher. So you can imagine if you're the creature, the bird in this case, right at the top of the food chain, the amount of poison that's in whatever you're eating has got to really, really dangerous toxic levels. And they weren't testing these levels when they were doing the tests on the animals in our countryside. So the numbers of buzzards and all raptors absolutely plummeted, virtually to the brink of extinction for all of them. That would have been a real catastrophe. Now, the amazing thing with buzzards is the fact that they think there's pretty much now a buzzard in every available habitat. And yeah, I know I'm going backwards and forwards, but I'm getting excited. There's a buzzard in every available habitat. That is amazing. And they are really easy to see at this time of year because all the youngsters have fledged and the adults haven't kind of kicked them off into the wild yet. So there's family groups of buzzards. And as you saw, sometimes you can see them in 4s and 5s and 6s. And that's amazing. These birds have got a 1 to 1.2 meter wingspan. These are big birds. You know, they're not small. And they've got that kind of call, which I say, the minute I hear it, you know, the ears are going and I'm looking up, where are they? Because to see them in our skies is just superb. It's fantastic and it's amazing. Absolutely love it. So, yeah, and why not? And if these buzzards, I tell you this, again, if you've read the book, there are several times in there about learning from the behavior of buzzards, looking for messages. And we actually have one. Now, if I sat down with you, there's a place we used to go, and we sat down and we made some really big decisions based on our interpretations of some of the behaviors of buzzards. You might go, you what? But you know what? We made these plans. At the last minute, we kind of lost our bottle and we backed away from them. And within the space of, I think, about 2 months, the not making that decision actually cost us a rather large amount of money. If we'd have made that decision and gone with it right then, we would have saved quite a few pennies. And do you know what? It's not only looking for the learning, it's having the bottle and the guts and the confidence to carry that learning through. And I think every one of us, no matter what the situation, has at some point or another made a decision, backed away from it and regretted it. Pretty sure. So yes, God, DDT shaken into my hair. Cool. Great learning all around. Oh, timely message for you. Well, in that case, I'm really glad that we got that one in there. So, moving on to books. Now, there are, at the back of the view over the wall, I didn't put in a kind of bibliography. I put in a list of books that I have read that are on my bookshelf that either definitely directly or indirectly have resulted in the way that I think and quite often the way that I behave and have contributed some way to me writing into that book. And one of the first ones was a book called Ask and It Is Given. This is it, Ask and It Is Given, and it's by Esther and Jerry Hicks. Now, Ask and It Is Given is basically a book about the law of attraction. And you may or may not have heard of the law of attraction. But if you like, the law of attraction basically says you will get what you focus on. And to some extent, we all know that because, you see a car and you really, really like it. And if you want it enough, you'll find a way of getting it. If, you want a new settee, a new sofa or whatever, we are pretty good at actually getting the things that we really, really want to focus on. But there's more to it than just those physical things. It's if you like, if we focus on the fact that we, for example, haven't got enough money to live on, then we're focusing all of our energies and our efforts onto the things we don't want. But it's in the same way, if we focus on having lots of money, then there's and we totally focus on it and trust it and believe it, there's every chance we'll have more. And there's a lot of waysays, but the more, even down to the point where when you drive into town, if you absolutely believe you will definitely get a parking spot, that's without a shadow of doubt in the back of your mind. It's not driving along going, oh, I'm going to get a parking spot, I'm going to get a parking spot, and the elephant in the back of your mind is going, no, you won't, no, you won't. It's weird, right? I've virtually never, ever failed to get a parking space where I'm expecting to get a parking space in town. And on the odd occasions where I don't get the one I'm looking for, a better one pops up a little bit later. So there's definitely something in it. And I actually write quite a lot about that in the 3-year pod. That's the first one. But Asking It Is Given was where I first kind of got introduced to this concept of the law of attraction. And it was quite interesting at the time because I was introduced to the book as part of the reading on a business course. It was about 10 months into the course. It was a 12-month course. And I was usually a month behind everybody else. Because although I love reading, I tend to find a bit more time for it now, but I found even less time then. I remember one of the blokes, we came back to the next day's course, and the bloke said, oh, what a bunch of namby-pamby tree huggery crap. And I'm like, that sounds interesting. So I got the book off the shelf and I started reading, got a little way into it, and I had a really difficult weekend. It was a birthday weekend, and the Friday was my birthday. That was last year. No, it wasn't the last year. It was must be 6, 7 years. Anyway, it was a while ago. And I got ill on that Friday night, and I was on my own for the weekend. I wasn't entirely happy about being on my own for the weekend. And, there was a fair amount of anxiety rattling around, and kind of now realised that anxiety has been more of a part of my life than I'd ever kind of realised for quite a long time. So I'm having a difficult weekend. But it was weird. Every time I picked this book up and I read it, all of my worries and my troubles and my anxiety just went away. Like, wow. Like, seriously, just reading this book is healing. Just reading a book is healing. And that was absolutely unreal. Now, I almost read the whole book in that one weekend. I'd read half hour, 3/4, and I'd have something to do and I'd go and do that. This was one amazing, amazing book. And there actually describes these 24 levels that you can go through to find, effectively kind of peace of mind a bit, if you like. But you can't jump any or miss any out. You've got to go through the whole 24. So it's a really, really cool book. And it's one of those that just kind of keeps reappearing when different people and different discussions. So I would highly recommend the book. However you want to believe it, the idea is that apparently one of the Hicks actually got, was used as the vessel for an angel to speak through. And the other one was the one who did all the writing down. I think it was Ester that got kind of like, was channeling the angel's message, and Jerry that was writing it down. But you know what, whether or not you believe that or not, it works. It really, really works. And that was one of those moments where there was almost a bit of a pivot in life, where kind of that, it was a bit after that initial sink and the climb up, but it's in the 3-year pond. So if you want to check that one out, please do. And if you want the details further, then obviously let us know and I can give you those. But it's called Asking It Is Given. In fact, there's a lovely little thing to kind of story that goes with it. And there's a man sitting on the side of the road, yeah? And bloke comes up in a tram and he says, "Hi fella, would you like a lift?" And the bloke says, no, come to my time, I'm waiting for God. And the bloke goes, "Okay, fair dues, see you later, mate." And he drives away. And then a little while later, a fella comes past in a bus. He says, "Do you want a lift, mate?" And he says, no, it's all right. He says, "I'm waiting for God." All right, he says, "No mind." He drives away. And a bloke comes past in a taxi, sees him sat there, and he says, "Do you want a lift, mate?" And the bloke goes, no, I'm waiting for God. As you do. And he went, anyway, after a fair old time, he sat there and God comes shuffling along and he says, "Hello, mate, how are you doing?" He says, "Oh," he says, "God," he says, "I am so pleased to see you. I've been waiting for ages." And God says, "Well, I sent you a bus, I sent you a tram, and I sent you a taxi, and you didn't get on any of them. So not only do you need to know what you want and ask for it, you've got to be ready to receive it. And that's tougher, so I'm told." But it's quite an interesting analogy. Do you just love that kind of thinking? Really cool. Anyway, so Simon's rambling again, time is cracking on, and do you know what? I'm going to run over again just a little bit. So what I'm going to do, a desperate attempt here, is to actually share the video, share a screen. Now this is part 1. This is Loch Glass part 1. It's based on, so we went to Scotland in August and revisited one or two places that I've been in love with for a long time. And we haven't been back to Scotland. I haven't been back to Scotland probably for 10, 11-ish years. Used to go up kind of every couple of years, sometimes every year, and quite often to the same places. So it's really cool to go back and just see how things have changed. So let's see if I can get this to play this and not have any boxes. So let's do that. I'm going to shut that one down and we're going to open up the one we want, which is that one. Here we go. So I've been coming to Everton in Scotland since 1990s. Came up a lot in the early part of the century. I probably haven't been back for 10 years, I would imagine, at least. I'm coming up today to Loch Glass, top of Glenglass, and a lot's changed in those times. Last time I came up, you could drive right up to the loch. This time, there's a set of white gates, as you can see behind me, which are probably installed by the people in the cottage behind. But I can't wait to get up to the loch. It's the most amazing, magical place. Come with us, see what we can find. Thank you. So it's a pine tree, a really warm, rough bark. We talked about on many occasions at home, but we very, very rarely ever see them with a trunk this fat, because normally they're grown for manufacturing and timber yards. So it's really cool to see a big, big old pine actually living out its days in the woods naturally. Love it. many things that make the Scottish topography different to that which we see in Kent. I mean, there's the obvious mountains, obvious heights, the obvious elevations. But if you see in the pool behind me, the water is really black. That's because it's really peaty up here. Everything is different. We have a granite substrate, everything's sitting on granite, whereas back home it's all chalk. Again, up here everything is acid, whereas at home, being chalky, everything is alkaline, which means we've got a totally different substrate, a totally different soil, and that will quite often give us many different plants. The most obvious example is the blue hydrangeas we get in Scotland and the pink hydrangeas we get at home. But also when you look around, you can see signs of age where things have been left, and they're not all forested quite the same way. We're going to have a look at some of the different trees we see and why they look so different up here in a little while. But there's an ancient beauty in these woods. Something that you only get from something that is very old. And that's just kind of magically beautiful. There you go, Loch Glass. Absolutely love the place. So that's the first one. You get a kind of sneak peek of the loch at the end, and we're going to show part 2 next week, and part 2 is entirely around the lake. But it is the most amazingly beautiful lake. Absolutely love it. We met some creatures that actually we met some warthogs. They're going to be here in 2 weeks' time. They're going to be on the screen in 2 weeks' time. So that will be absolutely fantastic. But it's one of those places that has such a sense of ancient. Exactly the word I use. There's a real old feel there. We actually found the antlers. An antler. Bought an antler. It's now got pride of place in the office. You can't see it, but it's just up there. So that was really cool too. But so yes, we've got some videos. Just to get a bit of a contrast, I'm going to Waterslade Woods on Saturday and going up there with Ross and get a little bit of footage from there as well, probably. But so yeah, well, we run over a couple of minutes, but you know what? Simon talks. And we got a little bit of a late start, and we've showed a little video twice, and we learned some stuff, which is really cool. So I hope you've really enjoyed this evening. Please let people know that we're on again, that we're doing bits and pieces. I'm hoping that next week we'll have a link that will be a kind of standard link that will run for several shows. That's certainly the plan. But that means all you need to do, I mean, you can give people the link, but you need to let me know that they're coming, because we just need to police who comes in And if I don't know who they are, it's difficult to let them in because, as we know from 1 or 2 occasions in the past, just need to have a bit of a cap. So give it to anybody that you can, anybody that would be interested in coming along, and we'd love to see them. You know, it's a case of we want to grow the numbers, we want to get this going. We had a lot of feedback last week saying this was absolutely great and wonderful. It wasn't long enough. So we need to get people to come in, and we need to encourage them to support what we're doing, because if you like, the more support we get, the more we can do with the show. So that'd be really cool. So as I say, hope you've enjoyed it. We didn't have any small furry cute animals this week, but we had buzzards, and buzzards are cool. Buzzards are amazing, and I love them. And if I love them and it's this show and no one said, can you do this or do that, or here's a wonderful piece of video, you're going to get buzzards from time to time, because I've got lots of buzzard video. So that's cool. And yeah, so next week, not entirely sure what's happening next week. We are going to have, obviously, Loch Glass 2. There will be another book, and we'll see what nature gives us. Because obviously there is an element of, if nature gives us something amazing, then I want to share it. So that's really cool. So yeah, tell everybody, and I'll try and get it up onto YouTube a little bit quicker this time. Incidentally, all of the past shows are now public on YouTube, so they can be found by anybody who would like to go and have a look. So that's that one. And yes, lots of great news and things to come, but we'll tell you more about those as we move forwards. That's it. Yes. Thank you very, very much indeed, everybody, for being here. Thanks, Judith, for being a great companion in the chat box. Love it. Appreciate it. That's superb. And have a cracking week, people. And before you know it, it will be next Thursday and we'll be on again. I can't wait. So once again, thank you very much. We'll see you all later. Bye.